In the Exodus from Egypt, Pharaoh represents a human embodiment of the satanic seed of the serpent. Pharaoh even wears a serpent's crown on his head. What does God's victory over Pharaoh in Exodus 15 teach us about God's ultimate plan for Satan's downfall? Join Dr. Warren Gage for this final installment of his three-part series on the war between Satan and God.
I want to take a look at another satanic type king and the taunt that is written against him. It's very similar in many ways to the taunt in Isaiah 14 against the king of Babylon. This one is against Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And it's music. It's the first song in the Bible. If we discount the song of Lamech to his two wives, it's the first song, true song in the Bible, the song of Moses, and it's also the last song in the Bible. In Revelation 15, the people of God there who have come out from victory against the beast of the sea, which anticipates or recalls Pharaoh, are standing on the sea, the crystal sea, and they're singing the song of Moses and the song of the Lamb. So the first song and the last song, it's remarkable poetry. Moses writes two songs. He writes the song at the end of Deuteronomy, foreseeing the history of Israel, but this one he writes celebrating their deliverance at the Red Sea. And it's very interesting Hebrew. When I was in seminary, I had decided I was going to write my master's thesis on this song. And so I was working with it, and it's very difficult Hebrew. And the reason it's much more difficult than the narrative parts that you can read fairly easily. When you get to this, they're very ancient forms, and it's just very difficult Hebrew. It's language that's very different. And the logic of that, it seems to me, this is clearly it's not archaized language. It's not pretending to be older. It's actually archaic language. It comes from a very early time in Hebrew poetry. But because it was fashioned in the form of a song, so it has meter and rhythm and things of that sort, it was not easily updated. And so it preserved its old form, much like our hymns. In our hymns in America, the hymns that were 100 to 200 or 300 years old, they have all the these and the thous and the archaized language, archaic language that was current at the time of the composition of the hymns, and so we don't update them because they're fitted into a musical format. This really gives the same indication. That doesn't bother me in terms of an adherence to the idea of the inspiration of text and the inerrancy of texting, because they're clear modernizations here. As long as the spirit of prophecy is in Israel, they can be updated without compromising the truth of the matter. It just makes it more readable and legible to later generations. So it's very ancient Hebrew. Even the liberal critics would date it 11 to 1200 BC, although we would think as conservatives, dating it from the time that we know that the Temple of Solomon was built after the Exodus. The Exodus would, by that chronology, have to be in the mid-1400s, and so, but they're getting within a couple of centuries, and I don't think we can slice the bologna that thin anyway. I think that it's an ancient hymn, and I think Moses is clearly the author. The form of the hymn, it begins in Exodus 15:1, and then commentary is made. Then Moses and the sons of Israel sang this song to the Lord. And then in 19 we read, "For the horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, and the Lord brought them back the waters of the sea on them. But the sons of Israel walked on dry land through the midst of the sea. And Miriam the prophetess, Aaron's sister, took a timbrel in her hand." The timbrel is always the emblem of the victory. You see that with the daughters of Jerusalem that go out with timbrel and tambourine to celebrate David and Saul when they come back from victories over the Philistines. So she takes a timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dancing, and Myriad answered them. So it's antiphonal in the way that it was performed. The sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted, the horse and the rider he is hurled into the sea. And so then that would become the chorus, and the men would sing and the women would sing. It would have been quite beautiful in its publication and musically to the people of God. It's a song that celebrates their deliverance at the Red Sea. They saw in that, Moses certainly saw in that, the fearsome hand of the Lord in vengeance being exercised against Pharaoh. And at the beginning of Exodus, the Pharaoh takes the male seed of Israel, that precious seed from which the Christ would come, and hurls them wickedly into the river, into the Nile, in order to exterminate them, basically. And so the judgment that comes from God is he will take the charioteers of Pharaoh and hurl them into the sea. That's the iron law of justice in the Old Testament, the eye for the eye, the tooth for the tooth. God has waited. He waits for 80 years for that retribution to take place, but it takes place at the sea. And we're told in 1 Corinthians 10, Paul tells us that Israel is baptized to the sea. And so this becomes an emblem of death, burial, and resurrection. When the waters part and the dry land emerges, that's the sign of God, the Creator. They're baptized, Moses says, under the cloud into the sea, and to Moses, the cloud represents Christ, because his is the word that brings light out of darkness, and the fiery pillar at night brings light into the camp in darkness, and they follow that light. They follow the cloud. And Christ leaves with the cloud and will return with the cloud. So the cloud is identified with Christ. They're baptized into Moses and to Christ at the sea. The death, burial, and resurrection, they go down into the depths. It's like a return to the original creation. But the light that shines into darkness is the first. The second thing is the wind that blows over the sea that causes the waters to divide. And then the third thing, the miracle, is that when the waters divide, it's not mud, it's dry land. So that's clearly a supernatural event. This is not describing some natural phenomenon, because the first 3 days of creation are being reenacted by God himself. He brings light out of darkness, he divides the waters from the waters, and then he brings forth the dry land from the sea on the third day. And they're going through the days of creation, which means on the other side, that encourages Israel's faith into going down into that emblem of death, going down into the sea at night, the darkness and the deep, which is like going back to the original creation. But they know that on the other side of it, when they come to the shore of safety, beyond them will be the land of rest, which is Psalm 95, it's Canaan. God's work will follow that pattern, and they will see rest in the land, those who are faithful. So anyway, that's the background. And when they're on the shore of safety, after God has brought the waters back upon the Egyptians, and they are dead on the seashore, the people of God sing this song of triumph, celebrating God and his faithfulness. So then Moses and the sons of Israel sang this song to the Lord and said, I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has hurled into the sea. That becomes the chorus, as I mentioned, under Miriam. The Lord is my strength and my song, and he has become my salvation. It's a praise psalm here of God himself. This is my God, and I will praise him, my Father's God, and I will extol him. It's a privilege to be in the generations of the people of God, to look back to the fathers who were faithful. That's not a gift that's given to everyone, but it's a gift that's given to some. Then he says, the Lord is a warrior, the Lord is his name, a Givor, a mighty man of war. Seems like an unusual picture for God, but a necessary picture for God. He's going to undertake mightily to accomplish justice in the earth. So he is a warrior, the Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has cast into the sea. and the choicest of his officers are drowned in the Red Sea. So there we are. It's celebrating the triumph of God, not Moses, but God over the chariots of Pharaoh. The deeps cover them. They went down into the depths like a stone, so they're cast out like a stone. In their pride, they go out against Israel, but they are cast into the deep, back into that uncreated state. The deeps, the waters cover them, and they go down like to the depths like a stone. Your right hand, O God, is majestic in power. Your right hand, O Lord, shatters the enemy. The right hand, this is an anthropomorphism. It's describing God in the form of a man. The ultimate anthropomorphism, of course, is Christ, who is God taking on human flesh. But here in the emblematic poetry of Moses, he says the right hand of God is powerful. The right hand in human metaphor is the hand typically of strength. The warrior typically fights with the right hand because it's the stronger. It's unusual when you have like archers that will use their left hand. That's noted in the Bible because of its being unusual. But typically the warrior will fight with his strong hand, God's hand. Neither one of them is stronger than the other, obviously, but to put him in the image of man, he would seem to have that special strength in his right hand. Your right hand, O Lord, is majestic in power. Your right hand, O Lord, shatters the enemy. He cannot be resisted, and that's a comfort to those who suffer oppression. And it was a comfort to the children of Israel who found themselves on the shore of safety after Pharaoh's surprise attack in the wilderness. And in the greatness of your excellence, you overthrow those who rise up against you. It's characteristic of God. He will defeat all of his enemies. You send forth, and he will do it in justice. It will be evident that he's done it in justice. These are the people who had cast the seed of Israel into the river, and so that judgment will be like in kind and traced back to and recalling the offense that was given. You send forth the burning anger, and it consumes them like chaff. Well, chaff also recalls the judgment of Pharaoh, who had commanded the people to make bricks without chaff, without straw. And the anger of God will burn them up like chaff. And so Pharaoh will make his bricks hereafter without chaff. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters were piled up. That's again, it's a bold anthropomorphism, like God is breathing over the sea, and that divides the waters. And so it's a very strong metaphor. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters were piled up, and flowing waters stood up like a heap. The deeps were congealed in the heart of the sea. Congealed is for the liquid to become immobile. That's the word that's being used here, congealed. The deeps were congealed. They became hard. They became fast in the heart of the sea. And this is the enemy. This is the Pharaoh who thinks of himself as a divine being. And the Egyptians were very, very clear that God on earth was Pharaoh. He was the sun god. He has 5 titles in his titulary, and one of them is the son of the sun, the Ra, the son, Ramesses. Ramesses means the one who is begotten as the son. Anyway, the enemy said, and now we have the taunt. The enemy said, this is what Pharaoh said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire shall be gratified against them. I will draw out my sword, my hand will destroy them. So you have this pattern of I wills. This is what I'm going to do. He's going to destroy the seed of Israel. Nephthah, the son of Ramses, uses that language. The seed of Israel is scattered forever in his stela that comes after the Exodus. But anyway, this is language like that. Moses is anticipating what Pharaoh had said in his heart. I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. That is, he will have victory and he will divide the spoil of conquest. My desire shall be gratified against them. I will draw out my sword. My hand will destroy them. And in this is why I think it's so similar to the oracle against the lamentation against the king of Babylon in Isaiah 14, because you have this I will, I will, I will, I will. And in the context of Exodus 3, God has revealed himself as I am that I am. He is the eternal one. And now Pharaoh is saying, I will, I will, I will. His divinity will be expressed in future, which is self-contradictory, because divinity is atemporal. It has no beginning and ending. Creatures have a beginning. Therefore, they can never have eternal life, technically speaking. It can have everlasting life. But eternal life is a property of God. And so God doesn't speak in I wills. God speaks and it's done. And it's done prophetically. In fact, in the Old Testament, prophecy is written in the past tense because of the certainty. If God has spoken it, it's called a prophetic perfect. It's past tense. Prophecy is written largely in the past tense because if God has spoken it, it might as well have been done. So it's regarded as having been perfected already and done in time, even though it's yet future. So he says, you blew with your wind, and the sea covered them. Speaking, it's turning it now to God, to prayer. You blew with your wind, and the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters, so they sank like a stone. Now they're sinking like lead. It's that which the gravitational pull is so strong that it will go to the bottom of the sea. They will have no recovery and no survival. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you among the gods, O Lord? And this is not Moses granting that there are other gods, but he's saying among the gods that are reputed and among the children of men, who is like unto you? Labuschagne, the South African scholar, wrote a book about this, the incomparability of Yahweh in the Old Testament. There is no one like Yahweh. There is no one like Adonai. None of the gods can even remotely be compared to him. So, who is like you among the gods, O Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in praises, working wonders? No one can be like him, so why should anyone aspire, apart from great sin, to be like God? You stretched out your right hand, and the earth swallowed them. In your loving kindness, you have led the people whom you have redeemed. This is chesed. It's covenant kindness, really. I think that's a better word for it. Loving kindness are two words. Both are sentimental. But covenant kindness, he has made covenant with Israel. And the seed will come from the woman in Israel. And so in your loving kindness, you have led your people whom you have redeemed. It redeemed them from slavery in Egypt. In your strength, you have guided them to your holy habitation. Now he's speaking in future, but it's perfected as if it's already happened. So this becomes the prophetic perfect. You have led them to your holy habitation. Habitation is going to be in Jerusalem, where the temple will reside. And they're not there yet, but he writes it. If you've brought them this far, you're definitely going to bring them in. In your strength, that you have guided them to your holy habitation. The people have heard. Well, they haven't heard. The Canaanites will hear what God has done at the Red Sea, and God will give faith to some of them. One of them who will hear what God did at the Red Sea is Rahab, the whore of Jericho. She heard and she knew immediately, this is the true God. And then she witnessed God giving the land on the Transjordan side, the two kings of the Ammonites and the Moabites, giving that land to the subjection of Israel. And she believed, she had faith. She knew that God was going to give Jericho to Joshua. So Moses' prophecy came true for, many years later, in the time of Joshua, after the wilderness wandering. The peoples have heard and they tremble. Anxiety has gripped the inhabitants of Philistia. Most people were afraid. And so they shut up their cities, and they'd prepared high defenses and walls. And so Israel is a ragtag bunch of ex-slaves. They're not trained for military. How in the world are they going to take Jericho? And God has them march around it 7 times so they can see they can't take it. They have no means of taking it, no siege equipment, nothing. but God can give it to them, which is what he will do. Just like he delivered them from the Egyptians, so he will deliver the city of Jericho into the hands of Israel. The peoples have heard and they tremble. Anguish has gripped the inhabitants of Philistia. Then the chiefs of Edom were dismayed. The leaders of Moab, trembling, grips them. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. He's saying all of these nations will hear about God's triumph at the Red Sea over the Egyptians, and they will react in fear. But some of them, in the good counsels of God, will react in faith and will join themselves to the people of God. So it anticipates the evangelical movement after the emblem of the resurrection, which is here at the Red Sea. After their baptism, they're safely on the shore, and then 3 days later, their deliverance at Marah, which also anticipates the resurrection and the power of the cross. So then the chiefs of Edom were dismayed, the leaders of Moab, the mighty men of Moab, trembling grips them. All the inhabitants of Canaan have melted away. Terror and dread fall upon them by the greatness of your arm. They are motionless as stone. So they turn to stone. It's interesting. Until your people pass over, O Lord. Until the people pass over whom you have purchased. The purchasing goes to the redemption. He's paid the price that they might be redeemed from bondage, even like you would pay the price of a slave. You will bring them and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance. He's going to bring them in the land. Moses will not be in their company, as we know, but God will bring them in. The one who will lead them, Moses represents the law. He can show them the land, but he cannot bring you into the land. That takes a Yeshua, that takes a Joshua to give you the inheritance that God has ordained for you. You will bring them and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, the place, O Lord, which you have made for your dwelling, the sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have established. Solomon, when he dedicates the temple in Jerusalem, many years later, will quote this verse, reminding the people that Moses had foreseen that they would be brought into the land and planted there and prosper there, and that the temple itself would be dedicated there. And then we read about Miriam and the people of God and how they sang antiphonally. It had to be with timbrels and dancing, the people that have been redeemed. It ends in comedy, always redemption. After the tragedy is past, the people of God rejoice, and this is the pattern of that. But my interest in this song is the heart of the king of Egypt, who is an enemy to the people of God. He represents Satan. He's called the twisting serpent who dwells in the Nile, so he's serpentine in his character. And the serpent has enmity against the seed of the woman, and Pharaoh, at the time of the oppression, had thrown the children of Israel into the Nile to destroy them. So we can see that Egypt is being depicted as being satanic in its character. The king of Egypt, particularly the Pharaoh, is satanic in his character, and the I wills correspond to the I wills of Babylon. And God will bring both kings down to Sheol, and he will exalt his true king, that is Christ, who will be given authority over all the earth and all the nations, and will reach out to them not in vengeance, but in mercy, and invite them to come. David sang that the Lord prepares a table for him in the midst of his enemies, and it's like they're on the outside looking in and envious of the privilege that David has. And he sees that, and he taunts his enemies with it. He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. But the Son of David comes with a greater heart, and he invites the nations to come to partake of his table. And his table is one of mercy and grace. And so what a different character. Even our greatest character, even David, he too succumbed to our mortal sin and fall and flesh, but Christ was perfect and is perfect, and it gives us the vision that gives us hope, that enables us to walk through this earth, even though Satan and his different emissaries will be sent against us. Ultimately, we are encouraged in our confidence that God will deliver us from any evil that is in our path.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Warren Gage podcast. If you enjoyed this message, please be sure to like and subscribe to one of our channels so that you never miss an episode. We'd appreciate it if you could also leave us a review. You can find us on drwarrengage.com, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. To support the podcast and gain access to exclusive offers and content from Dr. Warren Gage, please visit our Patreon account at patreon.com/Dr. Warren Gage. We hope you join us next time on the Dr. Warren Gage podcast.